OG Rose, and today we're going to be talking about the conviviality of Ivan Illich, Essential Thinking for Thinking Life, Part 1. And this is in honor of a 2023 Parallax course Michelle and I will be teaching starting November 4th. We would be thrilled and honored for you to sign up. You can do so at parallax.com. And it's really a treat whenever we get a chance to talk with Sweeney. And there's a video over there of a recent discussion and some others that get into the thought of Ivan Illich that I think is just very, very important. He's a great mind and a great thinker. This is going to be part 1 of that paper. And to start, where there is no limits to totalization becomes possible. And where totalization is possible, so also might there be totalitarianism. Now, I'm big on David Hume on this. David Hume is quite useful, where he warns that philosophy is able to be about anything. It is non-contingent, it is not limited, and therefore it could be, if governments are erected upon philosophical premises, as opposed to, say, socioeconomic or resource needs, then they might be unlimited in their power, which could be a real problem. Illich picks up on this. He's very similar in his thinking in that he recognizes that being human requires us to have limits. And those limits are, without limits, you also can't have definition, right? So limits define, and they also make it possible for us to define what it is to be human and to optimize that ontology. Alex Ebert is so good where he talks about where there is no limit. Limitless growth can be cancerous. He talks about the need for life to have death. And I think we see similar thinking in Illich. He'll even talk about how we've lost the art of dying today. And I think he's correct about that. And so convivial for Illich designates a modern society of responsibly limited tools. So in the book, Tools for Conviviality, there's this idea that technology today asserts itself upon us in a manner that suggests it should be unlimited. It should be in anything. It should not be restricted to any just single domain. And for Illich, this is a problem because the only way for us not to become the tools of tools is for us to know how to limit them. He mentions as how such a society like the world today, in which modern technologies serve politically interrelated individuals rather than managers, we'll call convivial. Well, the society that he hopes to give rise to today is one in which we're not merely managers of technology, but learn to integrate it to extend humanity, not replace humanity. And he believes that if we're just managers of technology, the day will come where it replaces us. It's going to manage us. He mentions that to formulate a theory about a future society, both very modern and not dominated by industry, it will be necessary to recognize natural scales and limits. Ivan Illich is charting a course of how to deal with the problems of modern technology that is not isolationist or kind of just leaving technology behind. It's like Paul Virilio, who I think, as I have spoken with Joshua Hansen and Raymond on Owen, who are teaching on Virilio, I think Virilio and Illich can be thought together. And both of them want to acknowledge the good of technology. They don't want to run from it, but they also see the dangers in it. And it's all going to basically come down to us and our ability to make what I want to call absolute choices, non-rational choices. Illich is very interested in the parable of the Good Samaritan, and I think it's metaphorically a good representation of all his thinking. And he says that in that story, we see the capacity for surprise is the essence of faith. If we can't be surprised, we cannot have faith. And there's something about tools that move us. The language of the paper is going to be a pre-planned society versus an unplanned society. Now, to talk about unplanned does not mean unprepared. We have to be in Illich very prepared to come upon the stranger in the on the road, but we've kind of replaced preparation with planning, and we use those terms as similes now. So to play on the title of the course, you must unplan your life. How we must unplan our lives. Look at the bird to the air. That's at Parallax. It's the idea that we have to unplan our lives and instead be more prepared, and that entails skills, readiness. You could even talk about anti-fragility, and that actually overly planning makes us very fragile, and in that way pathological. And for Illich, tools can remove surprise, and in fact it is arguably their purpose to do so, meaning that technology can be a threat to faith. Well, this is a problem. If technology trains us to be incapable of living a life where we don't know everything, then we're not going to be able to have the horizon, the very way of life that makes us prepared for the true other. the guy on the side of the road. Technology trains us to think that today one is to always know the other in advance of any actual encounter. And you see the problem for Illich is if you know the other before the encounter, what you're doing is forcing upon them a preset idea of who they are. And that can cause all sorts of trouble. David Carley, who was friends with Illich and who had a wonderful talk with Benita Roy, notes that Jesus tells the story of the Samaritan in order to frustrate the request of that certain lawyer for a permanent airtight definition of the neighbor, which can hence save us from the nakedness of being vulnerable to the unexpected. We could say that the pre-planned is clothing, like what Adam sought after the fall. Now again, I stress, to be against pre-planning is not to be against being prepared. But being prepared always has to be in the realm of openness to the encounter of the other, to surprise. If we can't be surprised, we are, you could even say we're weak. I mean, you could say we're thymotically, to use Owen's language, we're thymotically deprived. And this is going to be an issue. Jesus does not give us a pre-planned understanding of our neighbor. He tells us the neighbor is the one we come upon. And then the question is simply if we're ready for the encounter or not. Illich really is concerned about this kind of ethos of pre-planning that technology begets upon us because he thinks it's basically corrupted the church and ruined the church. And this is really bad for Illich because the church is the best of things. And it is the best of things that is the worst of things when corrupted. And Illich believes we can only understand modern society as a corrupted Christianity. And he also notes that if you take all this seriously, then we have to, redo schooling, medical, politics, all these things are in the business of pre-planning, not preparing for the unexpected and being able to embrace the unexpected. And this is going to make us weak. It could make us sicker, less healthy, less educated, and so on and so forth. He also suggests that humans perish without mystery, and the pre-planning ethos removes mystery. He also mentions in his book, Deschooling Society, in line with this thinking, schools are designed on the assumption that there is a secret to everything in life, that the quality of life depends on knowing that secrets can be known only in orderly succession, and that only teachers can properly reveal these secrets. An individual with a schooled mind conceives of the world as a pyramid of classified packages, accessible only to those who carry the proper tags. So what you see here is a society of really kind of, if you do the right things, if you know the right people, if you're in the right order, then you can follow the structure. There's a preset structure to education, and then all you need to do is plan your life to fall in line with that structure. There's no room for mystery here, and if there's no room for mystery, there's no room for the other. You could actually kind of argue that secrets are a counterfeit of mystery. Mystery is an ever openness to the unknown, where secrets is the thing is known, it's just kept from you. And you could say that society today is kind of Gnostic, in a negative, kind of Augustine sense of Gnostic. Gnostic means a lot of things to a lot of people, and where there are secrets all around us, but there aren't mysteries. And perhaps then it's not by chance we have a conspiratorial mindset. Conspiracies, all of that are so prevalent because it's almost taught to us by the structure of society in its very medium. The medium is the message. Illich's hope is ultimately the expansion of freedom, and he believes that planning, where we're really, really stuck in planning as opposed to prepared for whatever comes our way, makes us fragile and unfree because we're stuck in our plan, and we're stuck in however technology structures us, and we can't love the neighbor. And so what ends up happening is without the ability to handle the unknown, tools use us more than we use tools. It's very interesting. He also has this very interesting book on the alphabetization of the popular mind, where he goes through the movement from oral traditions to writing. And the paper is also going to talk a bit on TV news, which is fun, on the invention of TV news by Andrew Pettigrew. And in all of these, the argument is basically that the invention of writing transformed how the brain experienced and interpreted the world. It changed our very structure of reality in very profound ways. And now we really do kind of phenomenologically experience things in terms of plans and structures, with not really these kind of open possibility. And in the invention of news, Andrew makes the point where he says, in the past, people were like, "How can I believe you if you don't tell me face to face?" And there's gradually this movement now where if it's written, we don't, if it's only if it's written do we trust it. And so, Pettigrew is going to talk about this kind of zeitgeist change from only trusting the face to face to only trusting the written. And written words, the very experience of words on a page is it's very structured, it's very solid, it's very unmoving, it's very pre-planned, it's very planned, it's very structured. And if the structured becomes the most real or the most trustable, gradually what that means is ethics comes to favor the pre-planned against the unknown and the unplanned and the mysterious. And so ethics structures us in a way to think and experience the world in a manner that makes us more susceptible to be controlled by technology. Now, this doesn't mean we need to get rid of writing, but it does mean that we have to think about how our experience of the world is structured by our information technologies. And basically, Illich wants to suggest if we're not aware of that, well, then we're going to be structured by our technology in a manner that makes us less human. We're going to experience the world basically like there is no need for limits because we're unlimited. Look at all we can do with technology. And once that occurs, we might become pathological, and that could be a real problem. Pettigrew also notes that writing has this tendency that no sooner was one issue on sale of the newspaper when it was invented, that newsmen were gathering copy for the next. There was little mental space for reflection and explanation, even if the style adopted in the newspaper had allowed for this, which it did not. And what he's getting at is there's also something about the written word that makes us always ready for the next written word, and we're looking around. And if conversation and information was dependent on seeing people, there'd be kind of a natural limit. Also, that information would be more personal. It'd probably lead to social capital and community, whereas now it's possible to get information without social relation. And as soon as you read some information, it feels like you should read more. And so it's like a treadmill that goes on and on and on and on. And this creates quite a problem. And Illich just wants to ask if we look back on history and see this transformation of the human psyche and the human experience of the world between the written word and from the oral tradition to the written word, couldn't that happen again? And might it already be happening? And, the very prevalence of the need seeming of, say, psychoanalysis, therapy, talk therapy, and all these things in first world nations today may suggest that this transformation is occurring, and that maybe we need to be a little more conscious of how we use our tools, because it's very possible that we have not set limits that we need to define and maintain humanity. And with this, Illich will continue to make his case. For more by O.G. Rose, please see ogrose.com. Please sign up for the Parallax course. That will be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. You can get a review, kind of overview of some of the topics we'll be covering on the website at Parallax, which will be in the description. And thank you so much for your time.